Hello world. This is the red hot read from the March 2010 version of Cosmopolitan. It is called The Limits of Lust. And you'll have to excuse me, this is my first read of it. Kirby Farrell's brand new B&B ski lodge opened to the warmest winter in Vermont's history, and she doesn't have a single guest. That is, until the morning the gorgeous Brett Hennessy rolls up in his motorcycle and books a room. In his leather jacket and sexy tee, Brett doesn't exactly look like the outdoorsy type. Not only that, but Kirby can't shake the feeling that she knows him from somewhere. The first night, Brett helps Kirby cook dinner. They talk for hours and Kirby feels serious chemistry, but she notices that Brett avoids talking about himself. Curious, she does a Google search of his name after he goes to bed. She finds out that he's a famous poker player from Vegas. Kirby wants to ask what had brought him to her tiny inn on the East Coast, but it seems obvious that it's a private matter. Not wanting to scare her, not wanting to scare off her sexiest and only guest, she resolves not to say anything. It turns out to be the right move because in the morning Brett sticks around and even offers to help fix up the inn, and then provides what an expert handyman he is in more ways than one. Ooh, is right. Fix up. Kirby was drinking coffee in the kitchen when she heard someone swearing in the back of the B&B. She walked into the foyer and found Brett crouching on the other side of the now screenless porch door. "What are you doing?" she asked. Brett held a roll of mesh in one hand and clutched his back with the other. "I came down to get water. I saw the mesh on the porch and thought I could cover the door. You really didn't have to do that." "I know," he said, his expression tight. "Just trying to help out. But I scratched my back on the nail that was sticking out of the wall." He turned around and pulled up his t-shirt to reveal a red line running across his broad, muscular back. "How bad is it?" he asked. Kirby took in the sight of his bare skin and swallowed hard. "I have Band-Aids in the kitchen," she said. "Follow me." In the kitchen, Kirby opened a cabinet and grabbed the first aid kit. When she turned around, Brett was standing just inches from her. She realized for the first time how big and tall he was, and she felt her desire surge. Brett took the kit and placed it on the counter. Kirby reached out to help him open it, and his fingers brushed hers. Slowly, his stroke became more deliberate over the back of her hand. Kirby looked up, and their eyes locked. "Kirby." Brett's voice was low and raspy. He lifted his fingers to her chin, forcing her to hold her gaze. "Am I the only one thinking about this?" he asked. Kirby felt breathless. It was exactly what she wanted to hear, but she couldn't stop wondering what had driven him out of Vegas. "You're not," she said. "But I barely know you." "I know, I've been holding back," Kirby replied. "But what brought me here doesn't matter. All that does is what I feel for you." His green eyes blazed with sincerity, and Kirby decided she didn't care what his secret was. She pressed her body into his and kissed him. "Playing to score." Brett pushed his hands through her long blonde hair and then slid them down her shoulders, grazing the outer sides of her breasts. His mouth moved slowly down her neck. Kirby ran her fingers up and down Brett's back as she undid the buttons of her shirt. Before unclasping her bra, Brett flicked his tongue over the sheer material. Kirby cried out, and Brett slowly peeled the now damp, flimsy fabric from her skin. She gasped as he closed his lips over her bare breasts and, as he moved lower, kissed her softly. When he unbuttoned her pants, Kirby felt her knees go weak. Brett's own low groan of appreciation as he tugged her pants down her hips had her splaying her palms flat against the wall to hold herself upright. "Yes," she moaned as his tongue found her. Her hips moved with him, establishing an erotic rhythm that could drive her over the edge. Not wanting it to be over yet, Kirby put her hands on his shoulders to stop him. As if reading her mind, Brett said, "I'll be right back." Lust in the kitchen. Kirby nodded and he hurried off. A few moments later, he returned with a condom. When he pushed off his pants, Kirby paused to marvel at his unbelievable physique. His member was thick and erect, and Kirby took the condom from Brett's hand and rolled it on. Then she wrapped her arms around his neck and tilted her face to his again. Brett gripped her hips and pulled up her thighs, urging her to cross her ankles behind his back. He hiked her up further until her face was even with his. Then slowly he slid down the wall, taking her with him, and onto him. Kirby gasped as he entered her. "Is it okay?" Brett asked. "Very," she said. He grinned and kissed her, lifting her hips away from the wall so she could control the movement. The kiss was broken when Brett leaned back onto his hands. He He arched his hips and dove deeper into her. Kirby held onto his shoulders, her head leaning back in ecstasy. They found their rhythm, and Kirby felt the momentum build. Brett leaned forward, pressing her against the wall and burying himself deep inside her. His breath was hot against her neck. He took her mouth in his own, and the sweet release hit them at the same time. Which never happens, by the way. What the hell is this? Sorry, that was my little interjection. Kirby gripped Brett's shoulders so hard her fingers cramped, and she cried out his name. As their breathing slowed, Brett said, "Hold on." Kirby tightened her legs around him, and he turned her so he could lay her on top of their discarded clothes on the floor. Then he settled beside her and drew her up to his chest. As her racing pulse slowed, Kirby found herself again wondering about Brett. She wished she didn't care, but when his fingers began to stroke her back, she felt her heart being soothed. And she knew that if they kept this up, even for just a little longer, it was going to hurt like hell when he left. I hope you enjoyed this piece of garbage. And, go do what you gotta do.